Welcome into Pressbox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Pressbox and PressBoxOnline.com. And with me, as usual, on Mondays are Luke Jackson, the managing editor of Pressbox and the website PressBoxOnline.com. And of course, the old left-hander, Ross Grimsley. And we're getting our thumbs
I'm
ready
getting
for the
my thumbs
Costas
ready
in
right
ad.
now.
All right, all right. That's 6 thumbs just to keep it, up, keep you up to date. Hey, we are brought to you each and every Monday when we come on the air by AJ Michaels, expert and award-winning AJ Michaels Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels, clean all allergens and viruses inside your air conditioning and heating systems, and get you set for potential $6,000 in rebates. The air conditioning season, of course, is here. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. That's AJ Michaels and the folks at Carrier. They're the big guys. We're also brought to you by the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something new, a bar. Atman's has food and drink specials every day of the week now, open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at our bar for the next O's game, or like tonight for the Home Run Derby contest. Also, not only the Home Run Derby contest, the All-Star game tomorrow. So you can watch those. But when the Orioles return to action, you can watch the games there at their bar. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com. And of course, we are brought to you by the Thumbs Up people, the Costas Inn, and we'll be talking a little bit more about the Costas Inn midway through the show. Gentlemen, we start the program. First of all, Ross, when you played, the All-Star game truly was right around the halfway point. It's something about it bothers me that teams now play 97 to 99 games before the All-Star break.
Yeah, no, I know. It's
I mean, does it bother you at all, or
well, the game's totally different now. The way
yeah?
they do things, and just like we were talking about before we went on, there's so many new rules, and they change yearly that you got to try to keep up with who does what you can do, what you can't do. So,
Kind of
yeah,
like the
I mean,
ball, kind of like the Baltimore weather. If you don't like it, wait
well,
10 minutes
really,
and they'll change.
yeah. But yeah, it's I mean, a lot of games, and the guys get tired. The heat is starting to come up. It's not even August yet,
Yep.
and that's the dog days. And these guys, this is a good time for a break, probably after so many games. But it's things are a little bit
How many
different.
games? Seriously, didn't they play about 80 to 83 games when you played?
I would possibly.
Yeah,
I think it wasn't, but it was
one
always.
ninety, one
No,
95
no, no.
plus.
It was always, and you know what? I mean, we were tired a little bit, but I mean, not to the point where, I mean, you step on the field, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Because if you start, oh, I'm tired, this hurts, that hurts. You start doing that, it's going to take away from your performance. But yeah, I mean, everybody's tired, everybody's hot. But you know what? You got a job to do. You're getting paid really good money to do it, which really, when you take the field, don't make no difference because you're still going out. No matter what you make, you're going to bust your butt and try to help your team win.
Luke, I imagine it's part and parcel of wanting to start the season earlier and not wanting it to run way into November for the World Series. So I guess we're stuck with this kind of format because playing it a week earlier, you're sort of dealing with the 4th of July.
Right,
It
right.
just seems like we're stuck with 95 to 98 games before the All-Star break.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense to me. And I was actually curious to hear from Ross. I believe you went to one All-Star game, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken. First of all, where was that All-Star game,
it
and
was
what
in
was that
beautiful
experience?
San Diego, California.
Oh, that must have been something. What was that like?
That
Sitting in the
was
locker room.
I didn't play in the game, but me and Mike Flanagan did get on the field. He was in the American League. I was in the National League,
Was
and
that the game? Was that the game that Palmer started and got killed?
I don't really remember. I don't know,
I remember
but
when I was betting baseball, I bet the All-Star game
Uh-oh.
I bet the American League and the under, and Palmer gave up like 5 runs in the first inning.
Hey, all I know, guys, is I was at the All-Star game, and I walked in the clubhouse and I felt like a fish out of water. All these big name guys in there, and I was just in awe of the whole thing. Obviously, we didn't get the pitch, but me and Mike met on the mound after the game, high-fived each other, and went about our business.
Now you guys were so you went when you were with Montreal.
Right, correct.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
All right. So
and
you and Flanagan had been
and I
you and
should have
Flanagan
went.
had been friends.
I should have went when I was with the Reds, but Sparky said, "You got plenty of time to make the All-Star game." I'm going, wait a minute.
And who did he pick? Who did he pick over you?
I think it was 74 or not 72.
It was 70. No, the one you went to was 78.
78.
Right.
I
Right.
think
He's
And it
72
was, and that game was started by Jim Palmer.
was
2 2/3, 3 runs, all earned, 4 walks from
Right.
Jim,
It was just an awful performance.
and he did strike out 4.
What was the score of that game? Wasn't it like 8-2 or
It
something like that?
was 7-3 in favor of the NL.
Yeah.
hey,
I wasn't-
it
I
was
was out of
amazing.
the under over right away. I was out of the game.
You lost, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Palmer gives up 3 wins, the best pitcher in baseball, arguably.
Pretty
And then
much.
he's got to the American League's got to face like Seaver, you know,
Yeah.
everybody, all the best.
Like
Nolan Ryan,
Gaylord was there, I
Gaylord
think.
was there. Marichal was probably around. Oral Hershiser.
Do you, Ross? Do you remember who started for the NL?
I'm thinking Steve Rogers might have started.
He pitched second. It was
He
Vida
pitched
Blue.
second. Okay.
Vida Blue started.
Vida
in
Blue.
the National
Okay.
League.
And do you remember who the winning pitcher was?
Oh God, no.
It was
Hey,
Bruce Sutter.
I was in awe.
was
I was
who?
seeing stars and stuff. I don't know what. I don't even what. I didn't even know if we won or lost.
It
I
was,
was just thrilled to be there, and
it was
it
Bruce
was a lot of
Sutter
fun.
who was the
Bruce Sutter
winning.
was the winning pitcher. Wow. So that game got close at some point. It was like 3-3.
Yeah, the AL got Palmer off the hook, but
Right.
Goose Gossage gave up 4 runs in the final inning at work. So
No, he was trying to get the game over with.
Yeah. Goose Gossage gives up 4 runs when I bet on the American League.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I think at that time, the National League had won like 13 in a row. And I learned a valuable lesson about betting. Whenever you say that, well, they're due to win one, it's just the opposite. If something happens 13 straight times, it's not like the other team is going to win. It's the one that won 13 in a row is most likely going to win.
It was the senior circuit.
Yeah, the senior circuit.
Senior circuit.
Guys, we are at the All-Star break, no matter how late it started. We've got the first couple rounds of the draft. I'm sure they're probably finished 10 rounds now, I think, right?
yeah, I think they're getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. Your take, Luke, I know you don't follow it religiously, but Vance Honeycutt, Jim Bowden, I heard him on a CBS thing on CBS Sports website, loves to pick. Does admit that he strikes out a lot, 30%, but says this guy has got the goods.
Yeah, he's a very Orioles pick. From what I read last night, he is a big-time athlete with big-time power who can really play a middle of the field position in center field.
Gold glove caliber.
Yeah, and those are the kind of guys they like. They like college hitters with big power who can play the middle of the field. However, I think he struck out 224 times throughout 3 college seasons. That is a lot. And as you said, Stan, I think it's a strikeout rate around 30%. That's high. And so they're going to have to go to work with him on his swing, on his approach, on swinging at the right pitches, all that good stuff that I'm sure he's been working on.
That's
North
against
Carolina.
college pitching as well.
Yeah. So they've got some work to do, but I'm excited to see what they can come up with this kid because apparently he's very, very toolsy. And he almost sounds like a more physical Judd Fabian is what I would say. Like Judd Fabian had a similar sort of profile at Florida, but Judd's about 6'1". This kid's about 6'3". Yeah. So maybe a more physical version of Judd Fabian. That's just from what I've read. So
Ross, I know you were a pitcher in the big leagues, and the only thing you knew about hitting was that you could get some people out. But
Yeah, I hit
how do you?
212. I hit 212 one year.
Okay, how do you? So seriously, how do you work on somebody who prodigiously strikes out, but that's got all the tools? How do you work on that?
I saw a kid, and you may remember him. His name was Greg Perkle. He was a catcher and a first baseman in the Seattle organization, one of
Okay,
the top picks. And his first day, I was there. His first day of batting practice up in Bellingham, Washington, where we had our all the new guys come in. He didn't get a ball out of the cage. He's about 6'5", 6'6", big, tall, strong guy. He never got a ball out of the cage, even when he made contact, and that was a hard thing. So it's a new thing for a lot of these kids.
whatever happened to him?
He got some time in the big leagues.
Okay,
Okay.
He actually they worked on him, and what little
was he a high pick? Was he a
yes, no, he
number
was.
one?
He was a high pick, and he ended up being a first baseman because you don't see a lot of big, tall catchers, in baseball that are
Right.
effective because they can't give a low target really consistently. But I mean, they worked with him, and he became a pretty good power hitting guy, and he got some time in the big leagues. But what they do to work with him, I mean, all of it's confidence, and working with just little things here and there that they obviously, and hopefully when they get him into camp, that they're able to sit down and discuss it and see what little things that he can do to improve himself and obviously make more contact, possibly make contact, to maybe move a guy or get a fly ball or just making contact, consistent contact and hitting the ball hard. That's the big thing right there. And you just have to wait and see what he does, what his issues are with consistent contact.
Luke, not that we're going to go over every player they drafted. They then took two kids from Virginia, right? Back to
Mhm.
back,
Yep.
I
Yep.
think, in the second and third round. You know much about either one of them yet?
No, but I'm sure I'll get a chance to see a lot of them next year at Aberdeen,
Okay.
is what I would imagine. But yeah, they sort of fit.
One of them's a shortstop and one of them's a catcher, right?
Yeah, the Orioles announced him as a catcher. He was mostly a first baseman at
Okay.
Virginia throughout a 3-year career. He caught 24 games this past spring.
Okay.
And so it seems like the Orioles are going to give that a go, and we'll see where that takes them.
And
But yeah, first base seems like a backup option for him.
did it surprise you, Luke, that they didn't go for a pitcher earlier? I think they took one in the fifth or sixth
Well, I'll
round
tell you what,
out of Auburn.
they took Jackson Baumeister out of Florida State last year, I believe in the 60s. I
Sec-
believe that was their second round pick.
Second
And
round pick. Yep.
I really like him from what I saw at Aberdeen earlier this year. He's
Yeah.
got an
He's gonna
electric
be. He's gonna
arm.
pitch in the big
And
league.
he was a sort of, some fans were a little confused that they picked him because he had an ERA of like 6 at Florida State, but he had traits that the Orioles figured would translate over to pro ball. And I saw in seeing him pitch at Aberdeen, they're definitely right. I mean, this kid's going to make it, provided he stays healthy, he's going to make it to the big leagues for somebody.
Yeah.
In I don't know what role it's going to be, but it's a big league arm. I was thinking they might do something like that again, but they opted to go the college position player route as they've done early in drafts, really all throughout Mike's tenure.
Yeah. They did not, Ross. They did not veer away from Mike Elias's philosophy, which is tried and true. But yet the organization right now seems. I mean, I can't tell you every pitcher, but I do the prospect show with Eric Garfield every week, and he's hard pressed to come up with a lot of people close to the major leagues,
Well, that's the
or
blueprint.
even a couple of them.
Yeah, that's the blueprint of the
The
of the
Astros.
Astros.
Yep.
And obviously, this is something that they're bringing over here, and they'll go out and trade and sign free agents, pitching wise. And that's what's got to. The scary thing about that now is the guys, you invest X number of dollars into these guys, and they get hurt. You make a big trade, you're going to lose some of your prospects, but the Orioles have a ton of those. It's just a matter of who you who you're willing to give up to improve the areas that you need to improve in. So that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Luke, we for the past year and a half, we've been talking about this farm system being so great.
Mhm.
There's no question they produced Rutschman, Westberg, and Gunnar Henderson. Okay.
That's a good start.
It's a terrific start. It's one of the reasons they won 101 games last year. But this supposed surplus, they don't want to trade Basayo.
Right.
I don't believe they're thinking of trading Holiday, and they
Right.
don't want to trade Mayo.
Right.
After that, that next group of Kaiser, Kurtstad, Stowers, and maybe Norby, and then Beavers and Fabian.
Right.
Are there any real, maybe Kurtstad, but aside from that, are there any really terrific players that other teams are going to give you something of real value?
Yeah,
No.
and I would imagine that Kerstad, they have identified him as a player, particularly after this year, who's going to play every day.
Yeah,
And provided that nothing is seriously wrong with him
right.
after the ball to the head, I think he's going to play a lot in the second half
Yeah.
because he just hits the ball so hard that you've got to find his way in there. It's certainly against every right-handed starter. And honestly, I think it's time to find out whether he can handle himself against lefties too.
Yeah.
But having said all that, uh, to your question, a lot of the guys at Bowie, aside from Basayo, have sort of stalled out this year. Like
Yep.
Fabian is having an okay year. Beavers is having an
Beavers is
okay
having an
year.
okay
Guys
year.
like John Rhodes are just having okay years. So to your point, and at Aberdeen, it's some of the same, And to your point, yeah, I think that there are some interesting arms
I mean, does
at the
Colton
lower
Cat
level.
does a deal where you maybe do like Colton Cowser and Matthew Edsel? Does that get somebody excited enough to give up a number 3 starter? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Colton's really showed a lot of holes of late. Really, the past few months, he hasn't been able to adjust to the secondary stuff down. Like the first couple weeks of the season, we learned that he could hit the fastball, right? And he had that terrific series in Boston. And I think he won AL Player of the Week, and that was great. But since then, I don't think he's even hitting 200.
Yeah.
And I- we just haven't seen him make those adjustments that he's needed to make. Now, I think he's probably a regular in the future, especially because he can really go get him in center and left, and
Yep.
that gives him some margin for error. But I don't know how another team's going to evaluate his bat moving forward. Remember, with Colton, he was considered like a big time hit tool guy coming out of Sam Houston State. Nothing we've really seen in the major leagues suggests that that's necessarily the case. He's more of a big time power guy who, at this point, is struggling to adjust to
To
stuff other
make
than
contact.
fastball. Yeah,
To make
yeah, he's striking out too much. So, uh,
But
yeah,
he
I think
didn't
there's.
get, but he didn't really come, Ross, with the same resume that say this kid Vance Honeycutt coming with, where he struck out 30%. As Luke said, he was considered a real hit tool guy. And now at the big leagues, he's finding out he strikes out quite a bit.
Well, there's a lot of guys, and we've said this all along that all your prospects, I mean, if you get a few of them to make it, you've done a pretty good job. But again, to get a quality, whatever you're looking for, obviously pitching probably, but you're going to have to give up somebody of value. There's a value to your organization, will be a value to somebody else's organization to get a quality player back. And what comes down to who do we have that we can get
That
rid
we're
of to get
willing to
that guy?
trade that's going
What do
to,
you want to do?
yeah,
What is your plan? Who
yeah.
do you have somebody if it's Holiday, do you have another second baseman or so to come in? If it's whoever. Yeah, I mean, this is things, but if you want somebody, you have to give up somebody. That's just the way it is because these other teams ain't stupid.
Luke,
They know what's going on.
Luke, before we take the break for the Costas in spot, we get our thumbs ready. Get our thumbs ready. Okay. All kidding aside, out of nowhere, I don't get to the pregame press conferences, and all of a sudden I hear that they're bringing in Smith into the game. And
Mhm.
it's Bert Smith, who I briefly had on my fantasy team about 5 years ago when he was in Kansas City. And then the next day, I'm driving around. I didn't know that they had sent Cade Povich down for the All-Star break, and they brought in Vinny Natoli, who they signed. He'd been let go. He'd been DFA'd by the Athletics. And these two guys are sort of like, it felt like they were the place kickers that come in to try and kick a couple field goals. Is that Mike sort of saying, well, geez, the price is so ridiculous for a good bullpen arm now that maybe we'll try these guys and see if one of them sticks.
I
Because
mean,
they certainly needed to upgrade from Dylan Tate this year. He was very disappointing.
yeah, and you were on that one early that you didn't think that Tate had the same life on his stuff that he did 2 years ago, which is not surprising considering he missed all of last year
Well, I still
with multiple
predicted
injuries.
about a month ago that he was going to be the most important player in the team in the second half or something like that. That who could be the most important player, on different teams.
Who would you pick now?
Um, who would I pick now?
It's that tough to do.
Vinny Natoli.
But yeah, I mean, part of that was just getting an extra arm up for Povich because he's not going to start again for a little
Right,
bit.
I
So,
understood that.
yeah,
I mean,
and
but it was a quick little. Let's take a look at this guy.
yeah, I think you're absolutely right that could be part of it. And like last year, they traded for Fuji, but they
Right,
didn't give up really anything.
right.
So is that instructive about what they think about adding to a bullpen?
Right.
Maybe, maybe. The Royals just traded for Hunter Harvey, who I think every contender,
They gave up quite a bit for him.
well, and
They,
not only, yeah, I mean, not
they
only
gave up
the
a
player, but the
competitive
pick.
balance pick and a number 2 pick from last year, I think,
And that
right?
pick was worth about 2.8 million in bonus pool money.
Yeah.
So yeah, they
Yeah.
gave up a good bit.
Yeah.
And I think Hunter Harvey is a pitcher that pretty much every contender could find a use for in their
Yeah.
bullpen. And so that gives you an idea for what those kind of pitchers are going to cost
Yeah.
in the trade market. The kind of relievers that a lot of teams want, this is what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Mike is going to be interested in that. I think that me and maybe you and a lot of others think that they could use it at the very least like a plan B at closer if something happens with Kimbrel, because there are other options at closer right now. Like I don't love Cano in that spot if he's forced into it because he's more of a right on right sinker
Yeah.
baller type.
Yeah.
Like if there are 3 left-handed hitters due up, do you really want him closing out that game? Probably not.
Yeah.
CNL Perez, I love his stuff, but he can be a little erratic from outing to outing.
Yeah.
And Jacob Webb,
Has
they've
gained
got
more and
him.
more confidence.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he would
And
be the plan B right now because he can defend himself so well against left-handed hitters because of the changeup.
all right,
So
let's take that time out when we get back. I wrote a piece for Pressbox today. It's separate from my power rankings, correct, Luke?
yeah,
It's separate. And I sort of graded the infielders, the catchers, the outfielders, the starters, and the relievers. I thought we'd spend some time going over that. All right.
all
But
right.
right now, let me tell you about a place that does have a good game plan, and that is, and they also have a great menu. That is the Costas Inn. Costas Inn, located 4100 North Point Boulevard. They've been there for over 50 years. And I'm in this mode right now, and I hope it's not putting across the wrong image that the Costas Inn is struggling or anything like that. And I mean that sincerely. They're not. They're still very busy. Weekends they're slammed, but occasionally on the weeknights they're noticing a little bit of a decline because of the Key Bridge collapse. And you used to have a lot of regulars from Glen Burnie, Arbutus, Catonsville, that it used to take 20, 25 minutes to get there. Now it's taking an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes. Gas, the aggravation of driving in heavier traffic, they've all added up that the Costas Inn is missing some people. And those people should be coming from the local people in Middle River, Essex, Sparrows Point, and Dundalk, and around Merritt Boulevard, around out there. So if you live nearby the Costas Inn and you say, geez, I haven't been there in 2 years or something. Now's a great time to go to the Costas Inn, especially on the weeknights. Crabs anytime, but call ahead 410-477-1975 to make your plan on the availability, the cost, and the size, and get the crabs you want for the group that you have going out there, be it friends and family or just family, or you're meeting somebody on the side. Uh, you know, uh, Kidding about that. Wanted to see the reaction I'd get from Luke and Ross, and they weren't paying attention. But anyway, let's get our thumbs ready for the Costas Inn. We got two, we got four, we got six. Six thumbs up for the Costas Inn on this show. We all love the place. Tell them Stan the Fan, Luke, and Ross Grimsley sent you. And I know, Ross, you weren't able to get your trip, was a short one last time, but when you're in next time, we'll definitely meet out there
Yes,
again.
sir.
All right. Luke, catchers. I
Mhm.
gave them, I think, a B, a B. Was it a B or B plus on my catchers?
Suppose during that break I should have pulled it up. I
Yeah.
did not. That would have been smart of me.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would have been smart if I
That
remembered the way I did 5 years ago.
B plus is what you gave them.
I give him B plus, but I think it's really unusual. I like James McCann, don't get me wrong, but as a Sunday and a once a week guy, other than Sunday or something like that, that's sort of what I see him like a 50 game. They got him more on playing 80 to 85 games, somewhere in there, and they're trying to really keep Rutschman fresh, but that takes up when Rutschman doesn't play catcher, he DHs, and that takes away the possibility of a Kobe Mayo coming up because you're wondering where you're going to get at bats for Kobe Mayo. It also takes out some of the other bats. So I think in the second half, I think it's incumbent upon Brandon Hyde to squeeze a little bit more defensively out of Rutschman.
And
Uh,
maybe that's the plan
yeah,
with how much he's DH in the first half, that they're hoping perhaps he has some more juice in the second half to catch. Uh, if you recall, last September was not great for him. And I thought
he's looked exhausted the last
I
5 or 6
I
games.
think the four guys that they've really leaned on in this first half, Adley, Gunnar, Westberg, and Tony, have looked various degrees of exhausted in the past 7 to 10 days, especially playing in this heat
Yeah,
in Baltimore the past week.
yeah.
And that doesn't, I don't know if that explains losing the first 5 games of this homestand as badly as they did, but I thought it was noticeable. And I think it showed up in Westberg's at bats in particular, and in Adley's at bats in particular. I mean, both of those guys are ice cold going into the break, and they
Yeah,
need those guys to be good,
yeah.
obviously.
Ross, McCann, you watch the games and you're a student of the game. Some of these pitchers really like throwing it, though. I think Corbin Burns really has more of a rhythm with him than he does Rutschman.
The pitchers do that. They get in McCann's case, he's a guy that he's a defensive guy, a pitch caller. That's his game. Offense is. I mean, if he can do anything offensively, move a guy
It's a
over,
bonus, right?
it's a bonus. Yeah, but he's a guy that his job is to call the game and get the most out of the pitchers he can get, and and out of the relievers as well, and that's basically his job. And when you got a guy that does that, that's worth his weight in gold. So that's a plus right there.
All right. Luke, the infielders. What was my grade on the overall group? Was it a B?
B.
B. And I think what takes away a little bit for me is Urias. I'm really finding it harder and harder to find excuses for why Kobe Mayo isn't up on a team that's struggling right now to put runs up. And
Could certainly use
Ramon
some, yeah.
Ramon has been a loyal soldier, and Brandon likes him a lot, and I get that. And his glove is very good, but his offense, there's a lot of empty at bats in that infield between Urias and Mountcastle to me.
Well, I think that you can sort of draw back to Jackson Holiday not being ready,
Yeah.
and in fact looking like he might be, based on his major league trial, as much as like a year away,
Yeah.
from that point when he first debuted, and so that meant that Urias played a lot more than we thought he was going to, and Mateo has played a lot more than he's going to. I will say for Mateo, I thought he was playing pretty good baseball up until he got smoked in the head in the on deck circle.
It
Since he
hasn't been
came back
quite
from
the
that,
same player
he has
since
not
then.
been the same player since his concussion.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. And I don't even know if he's been the same defensively either since then. I think that's worth watching. But to your point on Mayo, I think maybe they might see him as a first baseman and not a third baseman. I
Yeah.
saw him at Aberdeen, but it was a while ago. I saw him a lot at Aberdeen. I didn't think he was a major league third baseman then. I haven't seen him enough since then to really offer an opinion. I'm just telling you, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't fluid enough. The arm wasn't accurate enough on a consistent basis. And my gut feeling is that if they thought that he could play a major league third base, he would have been up weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think that they might be grooming him to be their everyday first baseman starting next year. That's
Okay.
that's
All
just
right.
sort of my
I,
gut.
and I hate to pick on Mountcastle, but I just see too many. He's having actually for him a pretty solid season, but yet he doesn't look anywhere near like he's a 30 home run guy now.
And also on a few of those deep fly balls to left field, it certainly seems to me like that wall might be getting in his head.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that too?
I, I just have such a problem with him late in ball games. Like to me, the Mountcastle that I see hits the home run when we're down 19-7 to the A's in the eighth inning, and he hits a solo home run. Wow, that's really great. I mean, I just I'm still not sold on him, and it's been like 5 years, and I like the kid. I don't know him personally, but I'm there at his locker, holding my iPhone up and listening to him. He's a nice guy, and his teammates like him. But to me, too many empty at bats. I mean, the veteran pitchers like Garrett Cole made him. I mean, it just was a man versus boy.
They're supposed to do that.
Yeah, yeah. But that's what Ross used to do to everybody.
There's some guys you ain't supposed to hit,
Right,
you
right,
know. But
true.
in some of these guys' defense hitting wise, when the pitching was as good as it was at one time, I mean you can get by with some of these guys not producing and getting a big hit, just doing the small things to get some runs. But when you're not hitting, you're not scoring runs, all of this stuff really rears its ugly head.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's a great point because I think every game of this homestand, absolutely every game of this homestand, they started off behind in the game. So
yeah,
they had to dig themselves out of a
Yeah,
hole. And sometimes it was like 4-0, 5-0. It's tough to win that way.
yeah.
really.
It really is.
And when you're not, but it goes the other way too, that they had chances early in games to get a run or two and allow the starter to settle in. They didn't help him out that way either. I think they went like 1 for 30 something on the homestand with runners in scoring position, which means two things. Number one, that's not great. Number two, that's actually not that many opportunities over the course of six
Yeah,
games.
yeah,
There, some of those games, there just wasn't a whole lot of traffic out there. I know they faced some good arms on this homestand, but Justin Steele got through 7 innings on 70 pitches. Like they didn't pose much of a challenge in that game. So, I mean, I think there are a couple things going on.
The O's don't walk a lot either.
Well, yeah,
They
and
don't walk. They're up there swinging.
they're very dependent on the home run ball, Ross.
Yeah, they're
And
up
I
there
think
aggressive.
and one of those games against Imanaga, they actually would have hit 3 home runs against him in any other
Yeah.
ballpark. They hit 3 home runs against him, and they probably knock him out in the fifth. But
they're
that's
there.
not their
They are
ballpark.
where they
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
That's where you're at.
Uh, let's jump out to the outfield. I gave them, I think, a C plus or C.
Hold on.
The whole group
Hold
that
on.
includes
C.
O'Hearn.
C.
C.
Yeah. It's pretty
Just
fair.
the threesome, and I wrote it this way. the threesome that was the core of the team the last couple of years as they started to improve in 22, got real good in 23, and this season. This season, the core, other than Santander, once the weather got a little warmer, he's hit 20 home runs, knocked in 40 runs in the last like six weeks or so. But prior to that, and now Hayes and Mullins just aren't producing. And as we alluded to earlier in the program, Luke, Cowser is just not what we were hoping to see this year.
Yeah, I think one of the big issues, roster issues that they have right now is that against left-handed starters, they have to start one of Cowser and Mullins,
Yeah,
both of whom are basically free outs against left-handed pitchers.
right.
So that's a roster issue that has to be addressed, maybe with another right-handed bat. I knew that they were going to face at least three left-handed starters in this homestand between Imanaga, Steele, and Rodon. I thought that they would maybe bring up Connor Norby as an extra right-handed bat against those guys, but that didn't happen.
What about the idea? Remember, they had the idea in spring training. Mateo played some outfield. Playing
Well,
Hayes
you
or
know what? You
Mateo
know
in
what
center.
happened? Mateo played center one game very early in the season, might have been against the Royals,
Yeah,
and he did not look comfortable out there, and that was the end of that experiment.
yeah.
And I think that Brandon values the defense that
Defense,
Cowser
yeah,
and Mullins provide to basically live with the empty at bats at the
yeah.
bottom of the order against a left-handed pitcher. I just, there, as you mentioned, Stan, there are just so many zeros in this lineup over the past, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. And the one guy that gave us a little hope, Ross, is he got beamed the other night, pretty darn good, and it looked like it hit him as much on the base of the skull, like on his neck and the helmet, Luke. But there's never when a guy gets hit in the head and he goes on that at IL, there's never a given that he's going to be the same exact player he
Right.
was.
Really, you've seen that happen to a lot of guys. Not
Yeah,
a lot of guys, but several guys that get hit in the head, and some bounce back, some have a big problem after that. But
yeah,
yeah, he was swinging the bat very well. The ball's jumping off his bat,
yeah,
and that was a big plus. And now again, and I say when you're pitching, starting and the bullpen guys, when they struggle, and they really haven't struggled all year up until recently, and that really exposes a lot of holes in your offense. And they have to do, and you're behind early now. You got to catch up, and if you don't have the guys swinging the bats, and you got only two or three of them, you got a problem. So that's something that obviously they're going to have to address or make some changes somewhere or another. But I still believe the Orioles have one of the best teams in baseball.
yeah.
I was just watching how they play. I'm not impressed with the Yankees one bit. I've seen them play enough early, late. They make a lot of stupid mistakes. They do some really dumb things, and it's just and some of them are just not ability wise. But overall, the Orioles, if they make a move here and there and get some pitching, some bullpen, maybe a right-handed hitter here or there, they're going to be fine because I think they go through, as every team does, some down times. And they really hadn't been through many down times this year
Yeah.
up until lately, so they could change in a heartbeat, and it usually does.
Let's jump to the starting pitchers. Luke, what did I give them? A B minus?
B minus is what
B minus. You guys agree with that overall? I mean, Burns has been what he's supposed to be. Grayson is maturing before our eyes, but is going to come up with a stinker now and then, like he
right.
did the other day against the Yankees. But he'll move on from that and he'll be fine. After that, I'm not taking anything away from Suarez. He's been a real plus. Kramer missed like 6 weeks with that
Right.
tricep injury, and he's been good, bad, so in his
Yep.
3 starts. So they could definitely use an arm. Cade Povich will probably be back up. I'm thinking maybe after one start at AAA. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. I'm not sure when they need another fifth starter. They go to Miami after they start the start the second half in Texas, but I'm
Yep.
not sure if there's an off day on Monday. I
There's
think
an
there might.
off day on Monday
So they don't really need a fifth starter for about 10 days.
until they come home against San Diego.
Yeah, so you can carry that extra bullpen arm
And
if you really
and Povich may start 2 games before that
right. And
time.
if you
Yeah.
want to keep him in Norfolk to work on some things for now,
Yeah.
that might not be the worst idea. And then bring him up if he's
Like work on
progressing.
throwing strikes.
That would be a big one.
Yeah.
Maybe Ross Grimsley can go to Norfolk and work with them on filling up the zone.
No, that ship sailed. I don't do that no more.
You don't do that anymore.
But
Uh,
yeah,
so it's a mixed bag, and I think look,
I mean,
Tampa Bay last year was right on our tail a good chunk of the season. They faded the second half, but they lost Shane McClanahan, like in the second half of the season. They lost Springs and Rasmussen in the first half of the season. All three to Tommy John surgery. We
right.
lost Means and Bradish to Tommy John, and we also lost Tyler Wells, and we lost Kramer for a month, 6 weeks.
Yeah,
So
and I'll tell you what, that Bradish injury, not to minimize the others, but the Bradish injury is a huge one. I think he's got better raw stuff than Burns or
Yeah.
Rodriguez. I mean, the night he got hurt for good, he was throwing 99-mile-an-hour sinkers. I mean, the sinker goes every which way, and he's got two filthy breaking balls. He was so good last year, and especially when he added the sinker to his repertoire for good. That's a huge loss.
so you talk about this, Ross, and what was I just going to say? They talk about a pitching staff that's had bad luck since September 1st last year. They've lost Felix Bautista for a full season. They've lost Means again for pretty much. He pitched one great game and then he was nothing. Bradish pitched 3 or 4 real good games and he's dead. So they've really had a tremendous amount of loss on this pitching staff.
Really, and you take the bullpen. Some guys have been ineffective and overused. Kimbrel, he's a guy he can't sit around for 6 days and not pitch.
That was terrible. I
You
thought
can't,
that
he,
that
and
was. I thought, and I'm a big Brandon Hyde fan.
yeah,
He had to pitch in one of the Cub games.
right. Well,
You
well,
had to get
they
him. You had
can't.
to get. You're down 9-1. So what? Get
Yeah,
him an
I,
inning
I
in
I
the
think
first.
they're trying to juggle and see what, you can't pitch him 3 days in a row.
No,
You can't let him sit for 6 days.
right. There's a
Uh,
fine line there,
yeah, so
and
I mean, I think they're trying to find out unfortunately, what they can and can't do with this particular guy. That's why I think the idea of getting another closer
yeah.
or someone that can close would help that out. They can kind of, be back and forth with that. So that's a concern that I think they're going to have to address at some point in time. And plus getting another maybe 2 arms in that bullpen and a starter. That they and it all depends on how far do you want to go. How are you in this to win the World Series? That's the whole thing. If you're in it to win the World Series, then you know what? The guys you got that can bring you back something, you need to pull the trigger. If not, then I mean, hey, we're going to get this guy off the junk heap. We're going to get that guy off the heap from somewhere, and try to patch it and get through and see what we can do. If that's what you want to do, I don't think the fans are going to be real happy about that.
Well,
But
we shall
that's
see. We shall
yeah,
see. I'm
really.
going to pass on the bullpen because we touched on it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I thought that Kimbrel had to pitch in one of the Cup games, Tuesday or Wednesday, and I thought that was a big mistake. Wednesday or Thursday, that was a big mistake. All right. That's going to do it for today. Enjoy the home run derby tonight, the home run hitting contest at 8 o'clock on ESPN. We'll recap the draft next week, and we'll talk about where the O's are then. No show Thursday with me and Eric. I'll be on with Glenn on Friday morning. That's going to do it for now. Thanks to AJ Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning. thanks to the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point, and thanks to the Costas Inn, where the thumbs are always up. All right. That's going to do it for us right now. Enjoy the All-Star game and all the festivities. Bye for now.